So today we're going to work on spawning some enemies. Now, we're only going to spawn them in this video, and I'm going to split up the movement and them shooting back at us into a different video, just because that's a fairly complicated subject, so we're just going to focus on actually spawning them into the map today. And you will be able to shoot them, and they will disappear. We're going to just make another ship that I got from the Kenny Game Art, and it's going to be a kinematic body with a mesh instance and a collision shape. So just a quick side note, if you don't just click and drag the resources into the corner, like I sometimes do, and you actually go into the files in the Finder or the folders of your game, and you copy and paste all of the files associated with like Spacecraft 1 into that file, and then you add it into Godot, it will actually maintain the materials and the textures on the airplane, just to save you a little bit of time. So this doesn't actually have any script on it yet. Like I said, we'll work on that next time to make it move and shoot back at us. But one thing I did do is I added it to an enemy group. I think it's good to put pretty much all the parts of your game into some type of group, if not more than one. That way you can reference them easily in the game, or in the script. So the next thing I did was I went over to the main game and I made an enemy container where we will place them, and a timer that is going to spawn enemies every 5 seconds or whatever we choose. And I connected that signal of timeout to the script of the main scene. We have to add a reference to the enemy scene. So we have preload the basic enemy scene, and also a reference to the enemy container where we're going to put it. When the timer times out, we're going to make an instance of that enemy, and then we're going to pick a few random numbers to randomize exactly where they're going to be spawning. So X is going to be the left and right randomization. So we're going to pick a number between 0 and the ground size. So if you remember, the ground size is the size that we pick how wide the map is going to be in each chunk that we generate. And the Z is going to be how far away or how close the ship will spawn, so they're not just all lining up in an awkward line when we finally get up to them. And then we're going to set the transform origin, so it's kind of its position, to a vector 3. That's going to be the chunk size plus the randomization of how far to the side it is. And the Y is up and down, and I just did an easy fix of making sure that it's higher than all of the map that we make. +5 will put it above the snow caps every time. And then the chunk, and then the Z, we'll add that number just like we did with the X. Maybe that's easier to see. So we have the X plus the random number, the Y plus enough to get over the mountains, and the Z plus that random number again. And these are all working in grid coordinates. And if you remember, our grid is a 10 by 10 cube. Our grid map uses 10 by 10 cubes, or 10 by 10 by 10. And so to get the numbers into the proper spot for an origin, since this isn't working in the grid map, this is working in actual distance, you need to multiply everything by 10. You can just multiply the entire vector 3 by 10, and that works. And then we add that enemy to the enemy container. Now the last thing that I added is in the basic bullet script, what we're shooting. Instead of just Q-freeing, we will still destroy the bullet if it hits something, but if it hits a body and that body is in the group enemy, it will also destroy the enemy. Now, obviously, later on, we will add explosions for both the bullet being destroyed and for the ship exploding, but for now, we're just going to Q-free things, and this is what it looks like. And so keep your eyes open for my next video when we go over how to make the ship look at the player and chase it down and shoot at it. And it'll make the game a lot more interesting opposed to just ships that kind of sit there.